I am here at the second location for the van build. We're gonna go over and see Simply Lesa. Hi Lesa.
Hey Carly.
So we're gonna talk about how you got into this lifestyle.
So in my past life, I was married for a short time, 13 years. The ex-husband didn't love to pay for rent.
Oh.
And so I got tired of the landlord coming by the apartments and, you know, being not nice with me. So I suggested that we do like the old hippies used to do and get a van.
Oh, nice.
I was not... My family always had vans as vehicles because there were so many of us kids. So I was used to vans, and I was like, so we'll just get a van and you just stop paying rent, and what's the big deal? And so in 1977, my ex-husband and I lived in a van while he held down a job in Hampton, Virginia for, I don't know, it was like almost 2 years. And then I was pregnant, and then I thought I couldn't have a baby in a van, so we got out of it at that time. But that was the very first start to my living in a van, but I've always wanted to be nomadic.
Nice.
I remember, okay, so now you get the dragonfly and tattoo story.
Oh, okay.
Which a lot of people don't even have about me, Carly.
Ooh.
So, my grandfather had a very small house in York, Maine, and in the backyard was a little pond with cattails. And the dragonflies were my favorite to watch, because you could sit for a long, long time and watch them, and they would just flit and stop and hover and look things over. And to me it was, they're looking stuff over and then they get done with that and they move on. And I thought, what a cool life. I wanted to have that life.
Nice.
And when I was 50, I had a hard time again, and I decided that for my 50th birthday I would get a tattoo and I would get the dragonfly, and because it kind of became a totem over time. So that's the dragonfly story, kind of in the short thing. But so that's, you know, my lead into, I have, you know, traveled, I've lived in foreign countries, I've homesteaded a lot, I've worked on wolf farms, I've house sat, I've done a lot of stuff and moved around a lot. And then in 2011, I decided I wanted to come back to the United States. I've lived outside of the States for close to 8 years, and I wanted to come back. I wanted some things more familiar and the language not to be so difficult. And so the first try for coming back, I was still living out of a backpack because I'd been house sitting and stuff. And I decided, since I already had the backpack, I'd just hike on the Appalachian Trail.
Oh, nice.
So I did for 3 months, and then I got sick and I ended up in a hospital, and, you know, things happened. And they wouldn't let me out of the hospital to my backpack and going back to hiking, long distance hiking. So they were like, you have to have like a physical address to be able to be discharged from the hospital. So they put me in a homeless shelter, and of course the homeless shelter's rules were that you couldn't have anything sharp, so my knife had to be thrown away. And then it was, you can't have anything that burns, so they took my cook stove away. And then it was, here's your tub, about this big, and everything you own has to fit in the tub, and if it doesn't, you can't keep it, we get it. And it was a brand new backpack, 3-month-old backpack, and you know, down sleeping bag and everything else, and it's like, it won't fit in this. And I said, well, I'm not giving it to you. You already got my stove and everything else. So I went out on the street and I found a homeless guy and I gave him my stuff. And then I went back in and, you know, played by the rules. And I ended up a few months later going back to Costa Rica to save money, and then coming back again to buy a van and meet Bob Wells.
Nice.
And that's kind of, so now I have all these people that I know in these events that I get together with at events in the winter usually, that are friends that I've met through the RTR and the Bob Wells circles.
There's a really good community of people out here.
Yeah, really good.
So tell me about the rig that you're in right now.
Well, this car, first off, I had a van, and I think you could still look it up on Pinterest, and the van was named Van Tucket.
Van Tucket. Okay.
And it was a nice van, and it's on a farm now, and it's hauling pygmy goats and hay and stuff around the farm.
Nice.
But the van, it cost me a lot of money to keep it running and to fix things, and I didn't like driving a van. The mountains on the West Coast, because I'm an East Coast girl.
Yeah.
The mountains on the West Coast a little different. And
Yes.
you go over a hill and you start to come down the other side, and it's like being in the front seat of a roller coaster. And after my nervous breakdown, I'm scared of that. It's not fun.
Yeah.
So I kept thinking that I would love to have an SUV and a Scamp travel trailer.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, I got the Scamp first, and then the van broke down again, so I sold the Scamp to fix the van. And then when the last time it kind of was giving me trouble, I parked it for sale in the town where my property now is.
Oh, okay.
And nobody called me at all. Like 5 months, nobody called me. But about a month after I parked it, a friend from an RTR event called me and said, my business took off. I now have a toy hauler and a diesel pickup truck. And do you want the Honda? And I just went, okay, what do you want for the Honda? And if you can get to Denver, you can have it. So I was gifted with the Honda, which allowed me to gift the van to someone else.
That's so
I
good.
gave the van to a family who had just moved into the area where my land is.
Nice.
And so then Ozzy and I became car dwellers or SUV dwellers or whatever you want to call it
Nice.
at that point. And so we lived in the car for 2 solid years with just the car. And when I was first buying the land, I had a large tarp, like a 20 by 20 tarp, and so I made a base camp on the property. And during that time, I bought and refurbished a number of travel trailers. And each travel trailer, I thought I was going to live in it, and then I needed money to fix something. And so I sold them for a profit, not a big profit, but enough profit to be worth it. And then did something else with the money, and then tried another one, and realized, yeah, it's not really going to work for me. And so the very last trailer I bought was, well, after I finished paying for the property and had the deed in my hand. And Ozzy and I were back in the car again for last RTR. And then we went back home in February. And I thought, we'll be fine. The weather will be okay. It'll get cold a couple of nights, but not too bad. We woke up one morning to ice on the inside of the windows. And I'm allergic to propane, so heat's an issue. I have to be careful. And I'm fine with wood, but I'm not good with propane, go figure. And so, and when we had like three inches of snow on the ground for more than 2 days, I was like, we can't do this. So I stayed with a friend in the town near my property, and found and purchased a 1962 Nomad, so another vintage trailer, and I gutted it and am making it an on-site. So on my property, there's like a cottage or cabin, but it's actually a vintage trailer. And I'm not planning to tow that trailer, and I've given myself kind of a time limit that I can't sell it before 5 years.
Oh, nice.
So that way there's always something there to come and go from. Really like traveling in a vehicle this size. One, I like having a nose on the vehicle because that going over the mountains thing, I'm following the nose of the car. It's not quite as scary as being in more of a flat front. My van was older, it had more of a flat front, and that was scarier. And so for one, that's a blessing to me. The other is inside this car is tall enough for me to sit up and read or watch movies or whatever I want to do. I have a tablet and a small, portable solar system and stuff like that. But it's comfortable, it works. After living out of a backpack, it's minimalist enough for me to feel like I don't have too much stuff. Although then I then I come to an event and I want to cook for people and I have all this stuff around me and I have to get rid of it and start over. But it's all good. It's all good. So that's kind of the. But I'm in the crowd because I'm a traveler, not just a nomad, but I'm a traveler as well. And I'm never gonna probably settle down until I'm forced to by old age or physical or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about your blog. So Simply Lesa.
Oh, yeah. So when I was 7, I had a dream, and in the dream, I was signing a letter simply instead of love and a comma, Lesa. Didn't have any idea what that was all about. Years later, my children and I got separated, and during that separation, I was concerned that they were never going to know who I really was. And I started to journal. And my ex-husband found the journals and burned them. So once that happened, I was a computer techie kind of person. And once that happened, I said, forget that. Now I'm going to put them on computer stuff because nobody knows how to get to them. And that was back when Yahoo was still a bulletin board. And it was, you know, black screen, the DOS stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And so then Yahoo grew up and became something else, and there was a space where you could store files, and I stored all the journaling out there. And then when Google showed up new, I moved it over to Google. And then one day I decided, it was before they were calling them blogs, and I decided to kind of open it up so travel buddies that I had met in foreign countries and on trips could just keep up with me, sort of like a newsletter.
Okay.
And so it went from being journals so my kids would know who I was to being a newsletter for people I had met but I didn't really keep in close contact with, to just, when I get a chance, I'll give you a picture and a little blip about what's happening in my life. And so it doesn't really have any major focus, but I live by some things and they show up there, and that's the keep it simple, sweetie, or sexy, or silly, because we don't ever need to call anybody stupid. And that's a big one, and travel enlighten often is kind of important to me. Some of those kind of things just show up in my blog. Yeah, and lots of little things about Ozzy, who, yes, is a rescue dog. He was actually raised in a no-kill shelter. And I guess it's okay to say it now. Other people have told me this, but now I'm going to use the words myself. I have loved him into being a good dog. So I write the blog at simplylesa.blogspot.com, and Lesa is spelled Lesa. And anytime you guys want to find out what I'm doing or where I've been, take a look.
And go.